Let me tell you straight, everybody in that room just about lost it when the CEO pointed right at the janitor's kid and announced, "If you can fix this engine, I'll give you a scholarship." You should have seen the faces, some smirking, some waiting for a train wreck, some pulling out their phones like they were about to witness the world's best blooper reel. But the girl, quiet, skinny, hoodie halfway zipped, hands shaking a little, she just set her backpack down, rolled up her sleeves, and walked right into the lion's den like she belonged there. And that's where this story actually begins, because what happened next cracked open every secret this company ever tried to bury. And yeah, I was there to see it all. So here's how it went down. The engine room at Stratton Dynamics headquarters was thick with that greasy, high-octane smell oil, ambition, fear, and something you only notice when powerful people are 1 inch from losing control. Engineers in tailored suits, some with their hair all slicked back like they'd never touched a wrench in their lives, stood around looking at this hunk of metal, a 12-cylinder prototype, meant to put Stratton on the map for good. Only one problem: it was stone cold dead. Wouldn't start. They tried every trick in the book, run every test twice, and the thing just sat there, silent and smug. The CEO Marshall Greystone, the kind of guy whose handshake probably had a non-disclosure agreement attached, stood, arms folded, lips pressed into a line, eyes sharp enough to slice steel. He caught sight of Henry, the janitor, standing in the corner, mop in hand, trying not to make a ripple. But that's the thing about people like Marshall, they can smell vulnerability the way a shark smells blood. He turned to the crowd and, with that little grin people use right before they show you how little they care, said, "Maybe we should ask Henry's daughter." And the laughter, well, it wasn't kind. The girl era, she called herself, clutched a backpack bursting with books and a battered notebook taped to the spine. Her father shot her a Lukdent, just daunt, but she squared her shoulders anyway, voice trembling as she asked, "Can I touch it?" Marshall waved his hand. "Be my guest." You know what I mean? They all wanted her to fail. Phones up, ready for the cringe. Except that's not what happened. Era opened her notebook, flipped to a page jammed with diagrams, weird scribbles, numbers stacked like they meant something. One of the engineers actually blinked, like he'd just recognized his own handwriting. "That's our design from last year," he muttered to his buddy. But Era, she didn't flinch. She checked under the housing, swapped out a tiny component from her own bag, who even carries spare capacitors in high school, honestly, then wiped her hands and said, soft as rain, "Try it now." Nobody even wanted to move, but the lead tech hit the ignition, and suddenly the room filled with that deep, smooth rumble that makes grown men want to cry. The engine, dead minutes ago now, purred, every piston singing like it never wanted to stop. The silence that fell after was wild, not even an exhale for 10 whole seconds. Some folks looked ready to kneel. Some looked like they'd seen a ghost. Marshall, his face pale, just stared. And then it began. Someone at the back clapped just once, like they were checking if the world was real. Then another. But this wasn't celebration. This was confusion, fear, a little awe. Marshall finally barked, "Who are you?" like she was some kind of trick. Era just looked at her dad, whose knuckles had gone white around the mop handle. "I'm just someone who loves engines," she said. But the questions came fast. "Where'd you get those diagrams?" a woman named Donna demanded. "Those are confidential." Era shrugged. "I drew them." Nervous laughter. "You reverse engineered our prototype?" someone else asked, voice dripping with disbelief. "No," she said, flipping another page. "I designed it. Mine's better." The CEO lunged, snatched her notebook, and started flipping page schematics, formulas, stuff that looked like hieroglyphics but apparently made sense to everyone with a degree in rocket science. "You drew this when you were 13? He asked, stunned. She shook her head. "I didn't say I designed your engine. I said you copied mine." The gasp that followed, that was the sound of pride getting kicked down a flight of stairs. Now, Henry stepped forward, all the way to the last decade, sitting heavy in his voice. "Years ago," he said, voice low, "there was a woman here, a genius. My wife, Era's mother, Maren Whitaker." You could feel the name ripple through the crowd. "She designed your first engine, long before this team took the credit. When she tried to expose them, there was a lab accident. But I never bought that story. I ran with our daughter, and I never looked back. Nobody moved. You could have heard a pin drop." Era stood, tell no tears, No shaking, just quiet fury and a resolve that could cut steel. Marshall looked at her like she was a ghost. 15 years, and nobody had dared to speak Marin's name. The files had vanished. The accident was all anybody knew, but now, here it was bubbling up like oil through cracked stone. Donna stepped forward, softer now. "You're Marin's daughter?" Era nodded. An older engineer, Leonard, raised his hand, guilt written all over his face. "I remember her. She was the best of us. I saw the files get pulled. I said nothing. You weren't the only one," Henry said sharply. "I cleaned the labs. I heard everything. They buried her, but not her mind, not her blood." He pointed at the engine. "Not this." The CEO tried to regain control, snapped. "You think a name and some blueprints make you special?" But Era just smiled, calm, steady, not even angry anymore. "You know what makes someone important? The truth. And right now, everyone in this room knows I'd have in you." Then something happened I never thought I'd see. Dana, one of the lead engineers, tore off her badge and dropped it. Leonard followed. A few more, too. Marshall looked around, cornered, desperate. "This isn't your company anymore," Henry said. "It never was." Marshall tried to laugh it off, but it came out thin and empty. "You think anyone will believe you?" Era just held up her finessed, recorded the whole thing. "It already happened," she said, voice a whisper but somehow booming. By morning, the video was everywhere. Stratton Dynamics wasn't trending for a new car, but for a cover-up. People started digging old patents, half-redacted memos, the works. Marin Whitaker's name, wiped from the history books, roared back to life. In the building, chaos ruled. Marshall locked himself in his office, surrounded by lawyers, refusing to say a word. Downstairs, the staff watched it all unfold. Dana leaked files to journalists. Leonard just stood there, badge in hand, looking like he'd aged a decade in a day. Henry and Era, side by side in a dingy break room, stared at the TV as anchors tried to make sense of their lives. "Never thought it had come to this," Henry whispered. Era smiled, half sad, half proud. "I was never just my mother's daughter. I was her voice. Somebody had to speak." Then the storm really hit. Federal agents marched through the Labino words, "just business." They went straight up. 20 minutes later, Marshall Greystone walked out in handcuffs. The cheer that went UPI can't even describe it. Some people clapped. Some cried. Most just stood there, stunned, as the man who ruled by silence was finally silenced. Outside, the sun burned away the clouds, and the air felt different. Era stood on the steps, reporters shouting, cameras everywhere. Her father nudged her. "Say something." She stepped forward, voice steady as bedrock. "My mother built something beautiful. Some try to bury it. But truth resists no matter how long it takes, no matter who tries to stop it. This isn't revenge. This is justice." And just when you thought that was the end, a limo rolled up, windows dark, crowd parting like the Red Sea. Out stepped an older woman, regal as a Queen Olivia Whitaker, Marin's mother. She hugged Era, tears in her eyes. "I kept everything. I waited for this day." For the first time, Era wasn't alone. She was part of a legacy. A man in a crisp suit introduced himself, Calvin Rohr, from the newly minted Department of Scientific Ethics. He handed Era a letter. The government was launching a program in Marin's Nemito Fund and Protect Young Inventors to make sure this never happened again. The first name on the advisory board? Era Whitaker. That night, Era played violin for a crowd of kids in a community center near the very place it all started. The music was soft at first, but it grew and filled every crack in that old room, part memory, part hope, all truth. And as the last note faded, nobody clapped. They just sat there, letting it sink in. Outside, a new billboard lit up mother and daughter side by side. The words "Truth Rises" glowing across the city. So now I gotta ask, where do you stand? Is justice finally served? Or is there more buried under the surface? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about who gets to write history and who finally gets heard.